Never have I seen someone get a 260 who is like looking for the perfect answer.
My name is Vraj. I'm a fourth-year med student, currently on dedicated studying for Step 2. So that's where I am in this whole process. Goal is to get, 260-ish essentially on Step 2. Yeah.
All right. So this is a 82-year-old woman comes to the office with a 3-week history of bilateral frontal headaches and a 3-day history of pain over the parietal skull regions. Okay. So this is temporal arteritis?
Classic temporal arteritis. Yep.
Okay. So you knew that. So to get a 260, do you know the secret in questions like this?
No.
The secret is that you need to frame the question in such a way that you can actually answer it with the knowledge that you already have. If you frame it as a detail of like, okay, so temporal arteritis, what ophthalmologic like complication will I get? That's okay, but not great. Because if you happen to have that specific knowledge, great, you win. But if you don't, then you probably are screwed. What if I said, okay, because like in general, what is the major thing that you worry about with like giant cell arteritis in terms of like the end organ complications? Like what's the mechanism by which it gets there? Future vascular interventional radiologist.
Claudication kind of basically.
Yeah, like stenosis.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So what if I said instead, if I were to stenose one of the major branches of the aorta, what kind of complication might I get? Like, well, it would lead to ischemia. Like, oh, okay, well, ischemic optic neuropathy now makes actually a lot of sense. I really couldn't explain why you could get dendritic corneal ulceration or hyperviscosity of the retinal veins or uveitis. Like, none of those other things make sense. So, like, there's probably like 10 things on every question that you need to know. This is my theory.
Yeah.
Theory. There's like 10 things that you need to know. Now, sometimes you're going to already know 8 of them, and you're not going to know like if you get a question wrong, you might know 8, but you might miss 2 things.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're going to know only 2 things, and you need to know 8. Like you need to learn 8 things.
Yeah.
There's the people who, because like we want to increase your score by 40 points, and your test is when? So about a month. So we want to get 40 points in like a month. That's a lot. That's a really big jump. Mm-hmm. The way to do that is that we are going to have to make sure that we identify exactly what that 1 or 2 things are in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you don't have time to study 10 things for every single question you get wrong. So a 53-year-old man has a lump in his neck, a hard 2-centimeter nodule in the left or lower left pole of the thyroid. Oh, I see. Okay, so he's got papillary carcinoma of the thyroid, and he gets a total thyroidectomy. And then, so now he's got signs of hypocalcemia. So what's the principle though here that like you want to reinforce for answering any management question?
Think acutely first.
Yeah, I mean, close. So all management questions, it's like 95% of management questions you can answer, or you can at least get it to like 50-50 if you just say 2 things. What's the diagnosis and what's the severity?
Mm-hmm.
Write this down. That student that I told you that got 45 points in like 3 weeks, this is the other thing that she did. Gotcha. So there are 2 things that you need to know for a management question. Mm-hmm. First, what is the diagnosis? That's what everyone knows, right? But the second one is what's the severity? And so the reason why you need to know the severity is like, probably pretty obvious. The more severe something is, the more likely it is that you are going to need to do something either urgently and or pretty invasive.
Mm-hmm.
The less severe something is, the less likely it is you're going to need to do something like that. So for example, if you've got like a little bit of low calcium, but you have like no symptoms whatsoever, you can probably give them some vitamin D and just like say, come back later.
Yeah.
If they're like,
if they have laryngeal stridor, basically.
They've got like stridor, they've got like facial numbness and tingling and like, right? Like that is causing some very real problems. And so like that is a problem that you need to fix like yesterday, not like, in the weeks that it's going to take for someone to get 50,000 units of vitamin D. There was a Harvard student who I was coaching at the time, and he was like brilliant kid, worked super hard. He'd gone to Princeton. He was like, walked on academic water, right? Went to Princeton for undergrad, and he went to Harvard Medical School for medical school.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought me these 2 questions, and he was like, I don't understand. I think UWorld is wrong. The first question was about acute diverticulitis.
Mm-hmm.
And the answer for management was IV fluids, IV antibiotics, and NPO.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I get it. That's fine. And then the next acute diverticulitis question was also diverticulitis, but the management was emergently go to the OR.
OR, yeah.
He's like, what's going on? If you're a medical student or a doctor preparing for either the USMLEs or COMLEX or one of your medical board exams, then be sure to sign up for our free 14-step program where we'll walk you through the most efficient ways for you to improve your score in a short period of time. And if you're interested in getting there faster, be sure to book a free call with our team where we'll break down what it is that's holding you back and, if it makes sense, explain how it is that we can help you to get there more efficiently. Like, UWorld is contradicting itself, and it's like, no. It's actually because you're missing the severity, right? In the first case, it wasn't that severe. Their vitals were stable. There was no perforation. There was no nothing. The second case, it was like their vitals were really bad. They'd bolus them with 2 liters or whatever. Or like they'd like done all this stuff, and so it was like there were signs of end organ dysfunction. And so it's like, yeah, like you need to go do the urgent thing, the urgent and or invasive thing for the more severe one, and you need to do the less urgent or the less invasive thing for the less severe one.
Yeah, fair.
So it's the same thing with this.
Yeah.
And so this is a principle that you can take
Gotcha.
to the bank. All right. So a previously healthy 52-year-old man comes to the physician because of a 6-month history of a cough productive of white sputum. Okay, so he doesn't have chest pain. I see. Oh, I see. Okay, so he's got an FEV over FEC of 0.65. That's a little low. I see. So he's coughing up a bunch of like white sputum, and he's smoked for a while.
Yeah.
So what was the correct answer?
Alveolar destruction and fibrosis.
I see. So emphysema, and you chose lung cancer?
Lung cancer, yeah.
I see. What was your rationale for this one?
Thought that was like more of like, like would be a more of a restrictive pattern, if that makes sense. Like new tissue being laid that might like restrict like the expansion of the lung.
Oh, interesting.
But
interesting.
like that is also just associated with COPD.
That was a little okay. So you're a little bit of a lawyer on this one. You're like, this sounds like so you knew it was obstructive. Did you know that emphysema was obstructive?
Yes, I knew emphysema was obstructive. And actually, like that exact wording that you use is something Eunice has said to me before on different questions. It's like, oh, I like being lawyers for the wrong answer sometimes.
Yeah, that's okay. So I'm glad that, that's a really common, like to get a 260, you have to be the judge.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've never seen someone who is like lawyering their way through and they're like, oh, this answer is not perfect. Like this. Alveolar destruction and fibrosis. Oh, I don't know. Fibrosis doesn't sound like quite right. Nah, I'm going to throw that one out. Like never have I seen someone get a 260 who is like looking for the perfect answer, right? Like you are going to feel uncomfortable for the correct answer in many questions. And the reason is that the answer choice and or the question stem is not going to be the clear, perfect, thing that you expect it to be. Okay. However, one of those answers is going to make more sense, right? So what you don't want to do is what may have happened, which is like, you're like, man, this sounds like emphysema. A sounds like emphysema, except it says fibrosis. Nah, it can't be right. So I'm going to eliminate A. Lung cancer. Well, I mean, a tumor could certainly obstruct something. So but like miss the fact that they're talking about peripheral, miss the fact, it's like,
I guess like, what can I do to, I do find myself, thinking back, I do find myself doing that a lot. Is there like what is like the thing that I just have to change in terms of my mentality, like to be like,
that's pretty close. Yeah. So the question is like, how can you increase your score quickly by not being the lawyer and being the judge?
Yeah.
Right. Not looking for that one perfect answer that doesn't exist. And right. So there's probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 things. One is that you have to go in with the right expectation. So a lot of times the reason why people are missing questions is because their expectation is that the answer should be perfect. The question should be perfect. It should have like all of this. So for example, there was a sepsis question. That was like a sepsis question. And everything pointed to like distributive shock and sepsis, except that I think they didn't have a fever or something like that. And it was like, but it was like pretty clearly sepsis otherwise.
Yeah.
And so they're like, but they don't have a fever. And so like they threw out everything and then they chose cardiogenic shock. Right? It was like none of the rest of it made sense. Like it was like, none of the rest of it made sense with the cardiogenic shock. It's just that they didn't have a fever. And so cardiogenic shock didn't have a fever. And so they chose that. Something like that. The NBME knows what the classic picture is. They just choose to like ignore it sometimes.
Gotcha.
And so like you just have to know that that's the game that you're playing. Because a lot of smart, intelligent, hardworking, academically driven people have gotten away with being like, well, this answer isn't perfect and therefore I'm going to eliminate it on prior tests. It's a valid approach for many tests, but it does not work for shelf exams in Step 2, which is why a lot of people can struggle with Step 2 questions who have done really well on other exams in the past. So that's the first thing, is just expectation. The second is, like, I know I said earlier, like, don't worry so much about rule in and rule out, but that is the other thing.
That is the other thing. Gotcha.
Is like, because you have to learn how to balance, be like, okay, well, in favor of emphysema is the fact that there is alveolar destruction, which I know for a fact this is, and I know this is definitely obstructive.
Yeah.
What's against it is like fibrosis, which is like, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't classically think of fibrosis as being like a thing for emphysema. Let's look at this, lung cancer, in the parenchyma. Well, the rule in is that a cancer could, in theory, right, cause obstruction. The rule out is that that's actually not like, it's not going to cause like overall obstructive disease, and certainly not if it's in the parenchyma.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like neither is perfect, right? Yet one of them is better than the other.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And you can get 80% without knowing everything.
Yeah.
Right? 80% is about 260 on Step 2. So like you can get a 260 without knowing everything.
If you're putting in the hours but your knowledge isn't accumulating, it's not about studying more. It's about building a system where nothing you learn gets forgotten. In this video, I break down the exact framework to make that happen and get you on track for a 260 plus in Step 2. Click here to watch it next.